So, have you seen this achievement, luxurious Luxembourg? Starting as Luxembourg, be the leading producer of luxury clothes, luxury furniture, and porcelain. I thought this achievement looked really interesting from the first time I saw it, and I did eventually end up trying to get it. So, this is the campaign that resulted from that. So starting off, you of course have a really small population, and you start off as a Dutch vassal without even having access to the Dutch market, and not really without an obvious way to get access to it either. You have a surprisingly low literacy rate considering you are in Europe. Your laws are all right, but like not even they are amazing for a country in Europe. You don't start with schooling, you have censorship, um, yeah, and you probably want to get rid of this as well. So yeah, there really are some challenges with Luxembourg's start. What we want to do initially is simply break free from the Netherlands. However, thankfully, it turns out that that is pretty easy. So essentially, what you do is just that you lower your relationship with the Netherlands far enough. Um, you can expel their diplomats, which expedites the process, and you should do that. I did not do that, but yeah, that would have made everything go smoother. And then you just do a diplomatic play for independence. And yeah, they have a much bigger army than you, but they can't get to you unless, Prussia or Belgium joins in. France, for that matter. But that's pretty unlikely. And you want to cozy up with Prussia and France, anyways. So yeah, then they will just give up eventually, and you will have your freedom. What you then want to do is to join either the French or Prussian market. Ideally, the French one. France is overpowered right now in Victoria too, and if you join their market as Luxembourg, then you kind of benefit from that, right? You have more people to sell to than the Prussian market, and I guess you will usually have more resources to take from as well. Um, but yeah, sadly for me, that did not happen, and I had to join the Prussian market. So as you can see here, I joined the Prussian market, and essentially what I did now is just that I focused on expanding my furniture manufacturers. But of course, there's not a lot of people in Luxembourg, and yeah, you run out of them pretty quickly. So what you kind of want to do at this point, at least what I did, was that I tried to cozy up with France and Prussia, and kind of try to um, research my way eventually towards having the means to attack Belgium. And you can see I went pretty far in that. So yeah, let's just move forward and see my preparations to expand the territories of Luxembourg. So here I have started the play against. Yeah. By the way, I have completely geared my economy towards furniture manufacturers now, since I figured I would get rest from Prussia anyways. But yeah, here I've started this diplomatic play against Belgium. I would add conquer Flanders as well here to just conquer the entirety of Belgium. And I did manage to get France to uh, join on my side. So that essentially means that we are in a very good spot. Pull this off, and we have a more modern army than the Belgians, and we have as big of a standing army as the Belgians. They have a pretty small army at the start of the game. Oh, let's see now. Yeah, so they have 10 battalions and we have 10 too, but we have none that we can mobilize, and they have 84. But of course, with France's help, we managed to pull this off. Um, and by the way, I completely bankrupted my economy when I mobilized this army, because this is too big of an army for tiny little Luxembourg to sustain. So by the end of this war, I was in default and everything. So here we have the new map of Europe after the Luxembourgian annexation of Belgium. Uh, and yeah, as you can see, I am in default because I got a huge debt by the standards of Luxembourg, but it's not that big of a debt by the standards of Belgium. You can see this, ever so slight jump in GDP. Can you spot where we annexed Belgium? I know it's a very slight jump, but you can maybe see it if you look closely. Um, Hilariously, it also really made our literacy spike hard. And yeah, there's a very slight jump in the population of Luxembourg here. We are still a member of the Prussian market at this point. We would still like to ideally join the French market. At this point, we are in a pretty good spot, so that when we are after default, we just start spamming out glassworks, furniture, and textiles essentially, and try to depend on our host market, speaking like a true parasite, to get the rest of what we need. I have not saved the exact spot at which it happened, but we had a rebellion where Flanders tried to break away from Luxembourg for some reason, like um, and that was actually pretty easy to put down because I just deleted the local barracks. So Wallonia, that did not try to break away because it's our capital state. Yeah, we kept the army here, and yeah, we pretty easily crushed the rebellion in Flanders. And as you can see, I just keep spamming out textile mills and furniture manufacturers, and I try to keep them separate in the states so that we get throughput bonus as well. Yeah, I started to use a lot of decrease eventually. I think I added this again pretty soon after as well. This helps a lot. All of them. Building things faster, having greater throughput, and greater migration attraction really, really helps the campaign. And eventually, our attempts at charming France were successful. At this point, our GDP has actually grown quite substantially. But yeah, France asked us to join their customs union. And this is what we wanted from the start, and they even used the obligation that they owed us from, helping us turn Belgium green to make us join their market. They're not even demanding that we become a protectorate. This is a great offer, and we take it every time. At this point, we are not the leading producer of anything yet. But we are starting to get some fairly substantial industries. We have fairly high migration attraction, and we just joined a bigger market to get people from. And yeah, at this point, just keep building, and the economy of Luxembourg is starting to become quite strong at this point. And in the next year, yet more of pretty substantial economic growth followed. By the way, if you compare the literacy rate here to my Sokoto campaign, you can really see the benefits of being such a small country in terms of getting these things going. And honestly, I really enjoyed, really enjoyed this campaign. Just spamming out buildings and seeing numbers go up. At this point, we actually are starting to become the leading producer of some of these things. So here we actually have become the leading producer of luxury clothes. We, I think we started to make trade routes even at some point to export it outside of the French market, or maybe it was just made by other countries, I guess. But yeah, essentially. We overtook France, France's national industries here, and just really kept going with that. So we have a little bit of catching up to do in terms of uh, luxury furniture here, and we need to expand our glass works because we're not even close to being the leading producer of ceramics. I was a bit worried about that one honestly because China produces a lot of ceramics. Um, but before I really had the time to worry too much about that, disaster struck. You see, France actually had a revolution at this point, and that meant that we got kicked out of their customs union. And Luxembourg is not that good at being self-supplied because all we essentially have the textile mills and furniture manufacturers and I guess increasingly glassworks of France, but we don't have any of the natural resources to actually sustain them. So none of these are even close to profitable at this point. So we have this, I don't know if you can spot it. There is a very slight drop in GDP after we left the French market. You might have a hard time guessing exactly when that was, huh? Yeah, no, a slight drop in standard of living as well. No. uh, so yeah, you can see we have some slight issues with our economy at this point. Uh, we don't really want to become the protectorate of another country, but I was starting to consider it at this point. However, I discovered this eventually. Yeah. Give an obligation to Britain, and we are in fact able to join their customs union. What about France? Can we join back in? We could, but we need to get the relations up first. And I would want to join back in the French market, but I don't have time to wait for this. Like, this drop right here is almost instant after we get kicked out. So just imagine how bad it would be if we have to sustain this Luxembourg exit or whatever for maybe like a year, maybe even more. Yeah, no, the complete disaster. So we joined Britain, and joining Britain really seemed to do the trick. Our economy had a swift recovery. Our standard of living has not quite recovered to where it was, but it's definitely on the way to be there. And we have been spamming out glassworks. So, what situation are we left in then? Honestly, in some regards, Britain might be the better market, because they have access to more dye directly than what France usually does, both from stealing it from China and from stealing it from India, I guess. But also, there are more people in this market. One thing that is better about the French market is trade, because without convoys, you can trade with the Italian, Prussian, and sometimes Austrian market, as well as the Spanish market with France. With Britain, you need convoys for pretty much, well, I mean every market in the world. So it's, both markets have some upsides and some downsides. Um, but and I guess these goods that we are producing are high in demand, even with rather poor pops. So I guess that the bigger population of the British market may be an argument for the British market being better to being. But yes, after this, brief recession, um, we have recovered and we are back on track, and we are very back on track actually. Because checking this, we actually are the leading producer of everything we need to be now. So it was a very strange ending to it, to be honest, because I was so deep in panic mode when Britain, bailed me out essentially. And just seconds after, pretty much, or okay, I guess a couple minutes, this achievement suddenly showed up on my screen. Well, I still kind of was, in the mental space of dealing with a recession. But yes, I guess Luxembourg has a very great ability to adapt to that sort of thing. So that concludes my campaign, where I showed that Green Belgium is indeed the superior Belgium. Um, yeah, and we have a bigger GDP than Russia. uh, okay, yeah. So I've thought this was a really fun campaign. What campaigns have you played in Victoria 3 so far? If you don't have the game, have you enjoyed watching videos of it? Do you think it's a good game? Do you think it needs some more polishing before you can truly enjoy it yourself? Tell me in the comments and give me whatever feedback you feel like on this video. See you around.